morning, folks. Hope you all are having a wonderful day out there. When we consider this chit-chat about generation gap, when this word generation gap is considered, they are talking about the change. For an example, a decade back, the prices of a commodity and the prices of the same commodity now, there is a change. This change should be measured and should be compared and should be analyzed, because this is what gives us a picture of future. How the changes are happening in the past, that gives an idea what change can happen in future. And this plays a very important role in commerce. Especially since the things have been converted from just commerce to e-commerce or mobile commerce, we have to be very updated about the changes, what is happening all around us. So, how to measure this change? Let's consider one of the simple thing what we have learned in our smaller classes, that is division of numbers. Let me take two numbers, 15 divided by 60 and 60 divided by 15. Now simply taking numbers would not make us understand better. So let's take this as something relative. Say this is 15 rupees is price of rice, one particular quality of rice around 10 years back. The same quality of rice today it would cost 60 rupees. So this is the rate of the one particular kind of rice 10 years back, and this is the same rice, but the price has been increased to 60 rupees. Here I am taking the same number but the reciprocal of the ratio here. Now if I convert this ratio into percentage, then it would come as 25%. And the same thing, if I do the calculation here, the same calculation if I do here, I will get it as around 400%. Now it would not look as a big miracle what I did right on the board, but if you observe this phenomena closely, it is actually not just dividing the numbers. Mathematically we are not just dividing the numbers, but we are talking about the change. Say this 15 is actually 25% of 60. Obviously, if I put 15 4 times, I will get 60. So it is 15 is 25% of 60, and this 60 is 400 percent of 15, because if I cut 16 into 4 pieces, that is 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, I'll get it as 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15. So actually, when we divide two numbers, it is not just dividing, but it is actually also giving us an idea how much change has happened between the numerator to denominator. So always numerator is compared to denominator, and here also numerator is compared to denominator. So if I want to compare two price or two quantity, I just have to divide the two numbers. This is the actual basics what we are using in this chapter called index number. So the entire index number chapter depends upon division of two numbers. So I welcome you all to this chapter called index number. Let's get to the commerce of the chapter. The chapter index number covers 26 marks in your question paper. It covers 26 marks. So let's see how it has covered. There will be 2 questions of 1 mark, there will be 2 questions of 2 mark, there will be 2 questions of 5 mark, there will be 1 question of 10 mark. So totally 2 plus 4 plus 10 plus 10 gives you 26 mark. So it has covered almost every heading in your question paper. So this chapter stands one of the most important chapter for the purpose of getting good marks. After knowing the marks in this chapter, let's go by the definition. Let's go by what gives us the marks. One of the most important thing is the definition of index number. It has been asked many a times in your different types of question papers. So the index number ka formula ka important part is relative change in time or relative change in space. This is the most important part of the definition. So we already discussed this in the start of the chapter, that is 15 divided by 60 into 100 gives you 25%. So it is saying you the relative change what happened between two different years. One more important name for this chapter is economic barometer. Why it is called economic barometer? Because the simple concept of economics is how the changes are happening in the prices in different years and how the quantity is changing in this years. So this quantity and price changes is mainly focused in this chapter called index number. So for economics, this chapter helps in abundant form. So we consider one other name for index number is economic barometer. And one more name, commercially, this might not sound really good, but mathematically this definition gives you lot of strength. One other definition of index number, mathematical definition, is it is a ratio which is expressed as percentage. So index number is a ratio which is expressed as percentage. So this is what actually index number ka mathematical formula means. After definition of index number, it's time to learn the uses of index number. One of the most important use of index number in today's generation is for government, because we have this government seeking the economist help for a really long time, since the start of governments, maybe when it was even kingship. Even then, people were dependent on economists to understand that how much money or how much food grains or how much army one need to survive in his country very safe, because we used to get attacks from other countries or other states, where even the old kings were following this index number to understand how much reserves they should keep, or what is the change what is happening, how they should change their economy for the changing people or changing economics with the people. So index number is actually having a very high level of use in governance by the government, and also for demand and supply. Now, what is the demand and the supply? If it is not adequate, the price of the commodity will increase, but for a short span of time, which is called hike in price, sudden hike, which is actually creating enormous amount of confusion in the market, which should be avoided, because people love stable market, and stable market is the place where people love to invest, and when there is more investment, obviously the economy of the country increases. So if I can predict what kind of demand is going to be created on the past analysis, that will give an enormous amount of opportunity for me to get ready for that demand with a good amount of supply, maybe appropriate amount of supply, not more, not less, but appropriate amount of supplies. And also, while I'm creating policies, so policies, when I say I'm creating policies for a longer duration, for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, you invest this much, after 5 years I'm going to give this much of returns. When companies are doing, as a businessman, when I talk, I have to seek that whether I can make or I can achieve that target from my company, whether my company is earning so much so that I can give so much returns to my investor. Even in this process, we have use of index number. Coming to the last one, when I'm fixing salary for my company employees, even when I'm fixing salaries, I should think that how much my company is going to do profit. If I consider the salary as the cost, and if that cost is getting invested in proper time, and if I'm getting proper returns, I can actually give proper amount of salary. Even while fixing the salary, index number comes to great use.